Hello everyone, my name is Bahar and I'm going to talk to you about our work on characterizing stage-aware writing assistance in collaborative document authoring in collaboration with my co-authors from Microsoft Research and University of Waterloo. If you think about the process of writing, whether individually or in collaboration with others, you see that the writers do not go from a blank page to a fully written document in a linear fashion. Rather, they may go through these overlapping and sometimes cyclical stages of planning, drafting, revising, and so on. While writers progress through these stages, they might have very different mental models and writing needs. And this process is often very complex and cognitively demanding. That could perhaps benefit from some kind of writing assistance that is aware of these stages. We have all these past models that characterize the process of writing in terms of a series of these stages, and other past research that showed that some kind of phased writing process could help with structuring writing and guiding collaboration. However, when we look at the modern writing applications today, we don't see that these stages are leveraged in any way in the types of support they provide throughout the lifetime of a document. So the very main question we are asking in this paper is, what do we need to enable such stage-aware writing assistance? That is now translated into these three research questions of: first, do authors actually perceive stages as they write? Second, how should this stage-aware assistance look like? And finally, are we able to infer these stages of document writing automatically? To do that, we did this mixed methods approach by combining findings from three studies: a qualitative one through a survey, a quantitative one through a large-scale analysis of logs of Microsoft Word, and finally a feasibility study that looked at whether we can predict the stages of document. I'm going to leave out this last study from this presentation. So the goal of our qualitative study was to characterize stage-aware writing assistance through looking at two different aspects. First, what is a stage of a document? And second, how should stage-appropriate writing assistance look like? You can look at the paper for the details of the survey we conducted, but the main question I'm going to highlight here is, should an intelligent writing assistant provide different types of support at different stages of writing in the document? Through the responses we received and the qualitative coding we did, we learned that, first of all, the writers of a shared document perceive the stage of a document in three different yet related ways. Also, we learned that the writers do attribute different types of activities to different stages of writing. So the main two takeaways from this qualitative study was, first, this link between temporal stages of writing and document lifespan. And second, stage-appropriate writing assistance means being able to kind of identify these activities that are associated with each stage and support them accordingly. So in order to validate these observations that came out of the qualitative study at scale and through an actual interaction traces of users working with a writing application, we formulated three related research questions that I will get back to shortly. But first, let's see how the data set looked like for this quantitative study. So we used the telemetry logs of users interacting with the UI functionalities of Microsoft Word, but for privacy reasons, we did not have access to the content of the documents or any revision histories or any information about the users. In order to learn more how we were able to manage this kind of analysis given this limitation in the dataset, please look at the paper. So the very first question we were interested to see was, do authors actually interact with the writing application differently throughout the lifetime of the document? For that, we tracked the contributions across time, or as we call it in the paper, the CAT distributions. And these patterns were quite interesting because, as you can see, there are these two peaks at the very beginning and the end of the lifetime. And this pattern kind of persisted throughout all sorts of document types we looked at, from single author to multi-author, different number of collaborators, different lifetimes for documents. And it has very interesting implications because, first of all, it shows how writers distribute their writing load or workload throughout the lifetime of a document. And second, how we can track these interaction rates and be able to predict the lifetime of a document early on. The second question we looked at was whether there are actually noticeable differences in the types of activities writers do at different stages. And through our log analysis, we were able to have these categories of early, middle, and late stage activities. And finally, with respect to the modes of writing, we compared the very first activities of first writers and second writers at the moment they arrive at the document for the first time to see if these activities are any different, and they indeed were. For example, we found that the second authors were 3 times more likely to appear on the shared document with a communication intent, or 7 times more likely to appear for the first time with typing intent. So I'm going to skip this summary for now, and then thank you so much.